Hey guys, welcome back to the Broken Tackle podcast, and today we are going to go over the winners/losers of the 2025 NFL Draft. I actually think overall every team had a pretty decent draft, so I'm not throwing shade really at any team here today. I just think that there were better options at spots where certain teams picked and whatnot. So with all that, let's just get started. Okay, so our first team we're going to be going over is going to be the Raiders. I actually think the Raiders had a pretty good draft. I think any team that would have selected Ashton Jeanty I'd probably have on this list. But, I mean, Ashton Jeanty is a generational player. Doesn't come around very often. And another player that I really liked that the Raiders took was Jack Beck out of TCU. I know he had a really good Senior Bowl. And just try to imagine teams, having to come up with a game plan for Ashton Jeanty, Jack Beck, Brock Bowers, and now they add Geno Stone into that offensive room. It's gonna be good. So I think the Raiders had a pretty good draft here. Another team that I feel like had a pretty good draft would be the Buffalo Bills. I think in this draft it kind of feels like they are really drafting to finally get past Mahomes in the AFC playoff race. I mean, they took, six defensive players with their draft picks. They took Maxwell Harrison with their first round pick, and then they took TJ Sanders, a D lineman out of South Carolina, with their second. They took Landon Jackson, an edge rusher out of Arkansas, who I actually really liked, with their other second round pick. And then just a couple of other, depth pieces, it looks like. But it really seems like they are sick of Mahomes, doing whatever he wants to when they play against each other. So they also probably looked at what the Eagles did in the Super Bowl and just how dominant they were against the Chiefs up front, defensively, all around the whole game. And I do think that the Bills hit a lot of the positions of need. They looks like they took two D linemen and an edge rusher, really trying to bolster up that defensive line. And then they did have a need at corner, so they took Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky, really fast, lengthy corner. And then they took Dorian Strong, a corner from Virginia Tech, in the 6th round, I believe. So I also like that pick as well. Bills are really loading up on the defense here, and I think they are a winner of this draft. The Tennessee Titans are another team who I felt had a pretty solid draft. Obviously, they had the number 1 pick, and they took Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. But I also think they got some other players who are really going to help their team out. I really like Kevin Winston, the safety out of Penn State. They grabbed him in the 3rd round. And then the receiver out of Stanford in the 5th round. I'm not really 100% sure how to pronounce his name. Elik Ayamanor, I think that's how you say it. But he had a really good game against Travis Hunter, I remember this year, or maybe it was last year, but I know that kind of before the whole season ended, that there were people mocking this guy to go late 1st, early 2nd round kind of places. So I think they got really good value in him, grabbing him in the 5th round at pick 136. I also like Khalil Mullings, the running back out of Michigan, in the 6th round as well. I think that's a good value for where they got him, and I think the Titans had a pretty good solid draft. I also think that the Seahawks honestly had a pretty sneaky good draft. I know that I've seen some Seahawks fans talking about they don't really like the draft they had, but what they needed was help on the offensive and defensive line. Or I guess not just the defensive line, but the defensive side on the ball, kind of in the safety position area, which is why I like the Nick Emmanwori pick, if that's how you say his name. His NFL comp is literally Cam Chancellor, so I think he'll work out good in Seattle. And then they took Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State. Then they took Mason Richman out of Iowa, and then they took Bryce Cabeldue out of Kansas. Again, a lot of last names that I'm not really sure how to pronounce here. But they just got a bunch of Midwestern offensive linemen, which that is never an issue, usually. And then they got Torrey Horton out of Colorado State, wide receiver. They got some good value in him in the 5th round. And then Jalen Milroe A little surprising of a pick, but if they can get him on the field and get him some looks, that's definitely going to be a head scratcher for opposing defensive coordinators. So overall, I think Seattle had a pretty good draft. Next on this list, I got the Atlanta Falcons. They have had a really hard time trying to get to the quarterback the last however many years, and they said we have had enough. And they went and got Jalen Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia, in the first round. And then about 7 or 8 picks later, they went and got James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher out of Tennessee, who apparently had some character issues, but I really think that he is probably one of the most talented pass rushers in this draft. And getting him at pick 26 is a really good value. I know there's character issues there, but if Atlanta, the coaching staff, they can clean that up, he'll be a slam dunk for them. And then getting Xavier Watts in the 3rd round at pick 96, safety out of Notre Dame, really good value there. And based off of those 3 picks alone, I think Atlanta is a winner in this draft. Alright, so for my last winner in this video, I got the Dallas Cowboys. I think they took some of my favorite players in this draft. They took Donovan Ezeraku, the edge rusher out of Boston College. Led college, or was second in college football with sacks. I believe he had 17 and a half. That might have been I'm not sure the exact number. I believe that's it though. Just behind Mike Green, who fell to the Ravens. And then they took Tyler Booker, the interior offensive lineman out of Alabama. And then Siobhan Reevil, corner out of East Carolina, who I had 1st round buzz, but fell all the way to the 3rd. And then Jaden Blue, the running back out of Texas, they got him with really good value there in the 5th round. I just think Dallas took a handful of good players, and I think that makes them deserving, at least of my winner list. Okay, so moving on to the quote-unquote losers. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't think any team really had a terrible draft, but after the 1st round, I think the Cleveland Browns had definitely made some questionable picks. We'll start with the obvious. They took Dylan Gabriel, quarterback out of Oregon, in the 3rd round, yet then they picked up Shedeur Sanders late on day 3. So I think they probably could have taken Shedeur Sanders day 3 if they really wanted him that bad. And maybe there was some buzz in the building that, you know, they needed to pick this guy up, or else they were gonna face some media backlash. I'm not really sure what the strategy was there with that. They also passed on Travis Hunter, traded down with the Jaguars, which allowed the Jaguars, of course, to select Travis Hunter when Cleveland could have had Travis Hunter. But I think Cleveland did have a pretty decent draft, taking Mason Graham. And then they took Quinshon Judkins in the 2nd, which I think there might have been maybe a couple players better than Quinshon there at that exact position, because they took him at pick 36, which is, you know, nearly a 1st round pick. I think there were a couple players that maybe had a little better value than that. But overall, it was an okay draft. I was not sure of the question, or I guess the decision making that they had. Another team that I wasn't really sure about the decision making is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. I do like the Shemar Stewart pick. It's kind of a gamble because he hasn't really had that production in college. A lot of good traits though, and if they can coach him up, he will definitely be a good player in this league. And then they took 2 linebackers who I don't think are going to be day 1 starters. So it really looks like in this draft, they're kind of planning for the future, which is never a terrible idea. The player I really liked that they took was Taj Brooks, the running back out of Texas Tech. The fact that he was still there in the 6th was kind of mind-boggling. He is a really good running back. But yeah, with the Bengals, I'm just not exactly sure what the vision was, besides maybe drafting for the future. Which again, I'm not hating them for it. It's just not really sure what the vision was. Next on my sort of loser list is the Chicago Bears. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Green Bay fan, but taking Luther Burden in the 2nd round at pick 39. Not sure what, I mean, they are, I guess, getting some weapons for Caleb Williams. You know, they took Colston Loveland at 10, the standout tight end from Michigan, who could be the best tight end out of this draft. It's just I thought maybe they could have went offensive lineman again, or somewhere else on the defensive side of the ball, kind of in the trenches, you know, defensive line, or, you know, go back, hit the offense with another offensive lineman. I know they signed a lot of offensive linemen in free agency, really bolstered that offensive line back up. You know, and maybe Ben Johnson is just really trying to get a bunch of weapons like they had in Detroit, so I guess I could see that. But I just think the value with some of their picks was a little questionable. But I do like the Colston Loveland pick at number 10. And I do also like Shamar Turner, the D lineman from Texas A&M. But yeah, I just think maybe could have gotten some different players at different spots. Next up on the list, might be a little obvious, but we're going to have the New Orleans Saints on here. I will never understand taking the Tyler Slough guy out of Louisville in the second round. I probably didn't even say his name right, but I don't know. That was just extremely questionable, especially when Shedeur was sitting there. Now I know there's the questions about Shedeur and his antics and whatnot, but I just don't know if taking the Tyler Slough guy out of Louisville is really justifiable in the second round. Other than that, I think the class is pretty good. They took Kelvin Banks, the tackle from Texas. I think if he didn't have a bad game against Georgia, he might have been the #1 consensus tackle in this draft. And I also like the Devin Neal pick, one of my favorite college running backs, getting him in the 6th round at pick 184. Really like him. But yeah, that Tyler Show pick, man, I don't understand that. But anyways, that's going to be all for today's video, guys. Just wanted to release some content since we've been kind of slacking lately. But hey, you know, sometimes life gets busy. I just can't wait for the season to get started and we can actually flood you guys with content. But in the meantime, don't miss out on our weekly podcast right here on YouTube and Spotify. And we are starting to upload more videos on our TikTok page as well. And also, don't forget to check the description of this video. It has all of our links in there, like our Discord server where everyone and anyone can talk about football. And it also has our links to our other social medias as well. Thank you for watching, guys. Peace.